Dear friends, who is to blame? Who is to blame when the water rises above our roofs and washes away our homes? Who is to blame when the farmers lose their livelihoods and are forced to find another way to survive? Who is to blame when people become refugees because the lands that they live on have already been submerged? Who is to blame? Let's take a look at this photo. This photo was taken in Tuvalu, one of the small island states of the Pacific Oceans. The man standing right here is Simon Coffey, the minister of Tuvalu, and arguably one of the first leaders to go against the formal dress code during a speech. Here he stood in the middle of the oceans with his trouser legs rolled up, speaking about the future of Tuvalu. We are sinking. Tuvalu, the home that he had always loved for all of his life, was disappearing because of the floods. But is it the water to blame? Let's take a look at another photo. This figure speaks volume about the future of Vietnam. In Southeast Asia, Vietnam has extremely high exposure to flood, ranked first with Bangladesh. Just like Tuvalu, flooding is nothing strange to us. In fact, the people in Vietnam have built strong resilience to flooding. However, it is getting more and more challenging to protect ourselves from the consequences of flooding. The flood is sinking our homes. It is taking away our stability and our loved ones. But still, is it the water to blame? Before reaching to any conclusions, let's try to define a flood. To put simply, a flood is an accumulation of water over normally dry land. There can be many types of floods. There can be coastal floods, river floods, flash floods, and urban floods, many more, which some of them we will discuss later on. Usually, when we talk about floods, we will think of floods as hazards. In actuality, floods can help to drive biodiversity. It can help to drive the functioning of many ecosystems. You can take Leo da Vinci word for this one. Water is the driving force of all nature. In other words, the water or the floods can be a foe, but it can also be a friend. Most of the time, it is up to us to decide its status. And yet, this is how we treat the water. As you might have known, floods are extremely responsive to climate change. Climate change can cause heavy rains and the rising sea levels, resulting in the overflowing of floods, of the water, and that intensifies flooding. The relationship between climate change and human actions has long been a substantial subject, to which we have to admit that human actions can be questionable and even problematic, to say the least. In contemplating of the dynamics of flooding, it is evident that a solitary raindrop cannot shoulder the blame for flood devastation. It is worth notice that some regions, for example, the central Vietnam, are naturally more prone to flooding due to its geographical characteristics. However, humans' actions such as deforestation, improper agricultural practices, urban development, and upstream constructions contribute to the escalations of flood risks. At the same time, the lack of water and flood management system leaves community to be even more vulnerable. Now, let's ponder on the gravity of the situation that lies before us. Let me introduce you to my hometown, Cần Thơ City. Cần Thơ City is the heart of the Mekong Delta. This is my home, and this is my own heart. As the children of the Delta, we have grown to accustom to the way of water. We have witnessed countless floods in various degrees of severity, almost accepting it as a natural occurrence. The flood or the water is our greatest source of life. It is our vein, it is our blood, and the water is our mother. However, we are breaking her heart. Oh, sorry. Now, let me talk about the Mekong Delta. Because of our greed, in addition to the lack of knowledge, now we have come to this point where the Mekong Delta, there's going to be extreme floods, extreme drought, the rising sea level, and erosion. The rate of land subsidence here is 10 times higher than the sea level rise, putting this area at risk of gradually sinking. The Mekong Delta is at stake, sharing the same fate with Tuvalu. Unfortunately, people have no choice but to face an uncertain future, a future where the security will be challenged. They have no choice but to flee their homes for somewhere above the water because their crops have been wilted, their lands have been submerged, and their homes that they have always loved for all of their life got washed away by the current. Now, let's talk about in the north and the north-central Vietnam. We often hear about heavy rains causing flooding. This halted traffic and caused great damage to the cities, to the lands, and to the people themselves. How often do we see headlines like this? 7 deaths due to floods in northern Vietnam, and heavy rain hits North Vietnam, halting traffic in Hanoi. Such haunting news happens every year, and yet we are forced to expect more to come. And of course, how can we forget what happened here in Da Nang? The 2022 flooding in Da Nang was a catastrophe that sent us to despair. I was here when the flood had already lowered, but what did not go away was the pain of the people who remained. As I entered the humble abode of one family, their pain washed all over me like a torrential downpour. Tears streamed down their faces as they recounted the unimaginable tragedy that befell them. I remember a woman, a mother, collapsing right into my arms while we were standing in front of her late children's portraits. Her children were going to college. One actually had a job already, and she was looking forward to find a partner and start her own family. All of that hopes and dreams just got carried away by the sudden flood. So after the flood, what do they have left? What did they have left? They had lost it all: their cherished homes, their loved ones, swallowed by the merciless water, leaving no trace. Floods are getting more and more unpredictable and causing greater damage every year. The 2022 floods in Da Nang, reaching 2 meters, inflicted a devastating toll. Millions of dollars in loss, 19 lives lost, and over 100 injured. These stark realities reveal the profound impact of natural disaster, a haunting reminder of the unforgiving forces that can strip away everything that we hold dear. Can you fathom the anguish of losing everything, including your loved ones, to the merciless water after a lifetime of toil? In the end, if it's not the water to blame, then who? To be frank, pinning down exactly who to blame might be trickier than it seems. But what is just as important is to recognize our own responsibility in this story. We gather here to address a pressing issue that affects us all: the fate of the water and the fate of our own. While natural factors still contribute to flooding, it is time to confront the man-made factors that have led us to this critical point. Yes, my friends, man-made factors that originate from no others than ourselves, you and me. In our beloved country, illegal dumping has been a rampant issue, especially in the rural area, where there is a lack of waste management system, very obviously. Still, in the urban areas, a heartbreaking scene awaits us. Every day, we see people discarding their water bottles, their straws, and their plastic bags onto the streets and into the drainage system, with no regard for the sanctity of our water resources. Now, why an immediate overhaul of water, waste, and flood management system, and also national policies might not be feasible just yet? We hold the change. We hold the power to enact change in two fundamental aspects: our attitudes and our actions. By altering our daily behaviors and our habits, you can significantly impact the prevalence of flooding. Now, as we look towards the futures, we have to see that among us, there will probably be a future leader, the one who is bestowed the power to shape the destiny of this issue. You have the ability to either exacerbate this issue and turn cities into oceans, or you can become a beacon of change, prioritizing the well-being of our homeland and our people. You have the choice before you to keep silent or to break that silence. Stand tall in the face of adversity, with your trouser legs rolled up maybe, talking about the future of ourselves, the future of the water, and how we are contributing to the escalation of flood. Only through your courage and determination that we can ignite a wave of awareness and actions. Even if you don't become a leader in a traditional sense, please remember that you still hold the power to influence yourself and the future generation, and that is very important. You are the leader of your own action, and through your choices, you can inspire others to join in the quest of protecting our water resources. So I implore you to reflect upon these words, ask ourselves, and join in the common discussions to find a solution. First, change your mindset. How can we break free from the cycle of accepting the flood as a natural part of our life, and instead take proactive measures to mitigate the issue and adapt to the new future and reality of flooding? Second, take action. What action can we take as a community to raise awareness about the long-term consequences of flooding, of unnatural flooding, and the need for urgent action? Third, come together. In the face of this ongoing crisis, how can we come together to support and to protect the most vulnerable members of our society from the devastating effects of the perpetual flood? My friends, as you leave this room today, please take time to think about this issue, because we need your mind, we need your power. You hold the power to change, and together we can create a better future. And also understand something. There might be time for you to ponder on the question of who is to blame, but there is not much time and space for you to ponder the question of who is to act. We understand that creating a tangible change will be very difficult, and it will take a lot of time, actually. But let's not be discouraged by the enormity of the task at hand. Instead, let's find solace in the fact that we are making progress day by day towards a better future. Last word, remember what our ancestors say. Don't wait until the water reaches your feet to jump. Đừng đợi nước tới chân mới nhảy. Right? And if you delay, it will not be the water or the flood that sink our home, but it will be the flood of our neglect. Thank you.